We have one class on Sunday here and Thursday in Salon Kathmandu near the Radisson. Yeah. We'll have an exhibition of my students in June, probably at the Salon Kathmandu.
Namaste and welcome to the channel Khojpatra. This is Sunil Rajdakal and today we are in talk with Jérôme Edou, who has been living in Nepal since the last 40 years. It's almost 5 decades, more than 5 decades now, and he has been an artist as well as a Buddhist monk who has been practicing meditations, who has been practicing a different form of arts which he calls the brush strokes. So everything that he does is all related to the brush strokes, and he believes that to touch the painting once again is not the right thing to do. It needs to be done in the spur of moment. Let's welcome Jérôme Edou to the talk on Khojpatra. Today we'll be dealing with the art, his life and his meditational practice in this interview. Jérôme, welcome to the show. So Jérôme, let's begin from your childhood. I mean, for the last 4 decades, you've been practicing Buddhism. How it was initiated in your life in the first place?
There is always a lot of little things that we can see when we look back, you know, little hints, meetings or things. But mostly it was by traveling overland from France to India and Nepal in the 70s. At that time, the road between Europe and India was the big trip, the big thing to do. And then, after a few days only, I stayed a few days in Bandi Amir, Bamiyan, in front of the big Buddhas. And then I had some kind of a flash. I stayed there for 2 weeks. I had no idea why, but I was just stuck there. And then I traveled all the way to Dharamsala, and then I thought I was at the right place in the world. And I never moved since. I mean, it was really finding your own place, you know, at the right time, the right moment in the world. So that was, yeah.
Was it in Paris that you began your schooling?
I went to different kind of schooling, public schools, and then a boarding school for a while, and with a normal family, and you know. But all my brother and sister are still in France, and doctors and whatever, sociologists, whatever. I was a bit of the the different species, you know. So,
was it back then that you first heard about Buddhism in your school days?
Yeah, here and there, you know, a few books. Of course, you end up having somebody telling you, oh, you have to read the Tibetan Book of the Death, which you open, and of course you don't understand a word, so you close it, but somehow it leaves a little imprint. Then I met, a few other people here and there, conversation. So somehow, and also a bit of meditation already, but more, not really Buddhist as such. But then when I arrived in Dharamsala, all this made sense, you know, in one place at the one time. So it was actually a big, that's why I really became a Buddhist practitioner.
So you were telling me off air that when you were traveling from France to Nepal to India, you were traveling by road. Yes. What was the road system like in those days, in the 1970s?
Yeah, it was actually interesting. Of course, crossing all of eastern Turkey was just impressive. And actually, there was a lot of people buying Afghan or Iranian buying cars in Germany, coming back home. So we were driving their cars, you know, hitchhiking, and they would give us the car to drive. So we were the kings, you know. You're 20 years old, you're crossing all Anatolia with a brand new car. They're so happy, you know. And then from one place to the other, to, you know, Tehran, then to Kabul. And Kabul, I stayed a long time also in Bamiyan. I really love that country. But after some time moving on, then ending up in
In the Dharmasala.
In Dharamsala and taking some classes in Buddhist. There was some,
Do you remember any of the teachers there?
Geshe Ngamong Darje, he was teaching at what we call the library. And there was a lot of foreigners, so it was easy access. Everything was in English, which was a great luxury. And that's also when I started learning some kind of a street Tibetan. Quite quickly, actually. I felt very comfortable with the Tibetan language. And then, I studied there for a couple of months. Then Vanarasi and Bodh Gaya. Stayed a long time in Bodh Gaya. It was winter. So, of course, Bodh Gaya was one of the center of the Buddhist world. It's still. And then from there, everybody say, oh, but you have to go to Kopan in Nepal. Kopan is the place. I never been to Kopan. I arrived one time in Kopan. It was the day where all the monks were on pilgrimage, so the monastery was empty. And I came back to Bodhnath, to the stupa. I got lost in the Rajpaidis between Kopan and Bodhnath. It was jungle there. And then the Karmapa was here. The Karmapa is the head of the Karma Kagyu school of Tibetan Buddhism. And he was giving the consecration of what we call the White Monastery in Bodha for 3 months. A lot of initiation and teaching, so stayed there.
Could you tell us more to our viewers regarding the Kagyu tradition? What it is actually in Buddhism?
Yeah, I mean, basically in Tibetan Buddhism, all the schools are very similar, except that the emphasis are a bit different in different tradition. For example, the Kagyu is really what we call the oral transmission from Milarepa. So Milarepa is really the emblematic figure. In the Nyingma tradition is more Guru Rinpoche, Padmasambhava. For the Kagyu is really Milarepa who is the main figure or the main image that we are looking for, which is really the yogi, the practitioner, not really learned, not like in the Dalai Lama Gelugpa tradition, which is more based on studying. Milarepa was really the guy who said, okay, I'm going to do it in one lifetime. So that's always been what we are looking for. The Life of Milarepa was of the first book translated in English or French, and therefore it was accessible. So that's how I got the connection there.
So in one lifetime, you wanted to achieve the liberation. That's what fascinated you in the first place.
That's actually the example set by Milarepa. So that's the aim. You know, just like when you 100 meters running, you want to reach the 10-second margin, even though you will probably never attain it. At least it's the game, it's the aim or the purpose of the whole thing. So that's the idea behind it.
So in those days, were you interested in art as well?
Not at all. Not at all. I had no idea, no connection with paintings. I'm a very bad musician. I tried to play the guitar like everybody else to chase the girls, but it never worked. Yeah, I was so bad. So after 10 years, I decided it was not my field. I took some drawing classes when I was in school, and I really liked, because I was so bored at school, I was always doing some little drawings, but nothing really academic or nothing, And then for 40 years, I totally forgot about everything about art. I was really into Buddhist studies, Buddhist meditation, translation. I did, I spent 15 years translating, and so many years building centers in France and in Europe, traveling with lamas around the world to translate. So that was mostly my main concern for many, many years,
Like you were telling me, you were learning the Tibetan language in the street itself when you began it. So did you had any chance to take formal classes regarding Tibetan?
Yeah. Because when I came back to France after my trip in India and Nepal in the 70s, we were the first generation of coming back, having some kind of basic Tibetans. And then the lamas told us, okay, you can go to this center and you become a translator. So, learning every day. And then I did 10 years of formal study with what we call a Kempo, which is abbot of a monastery, which is a really learned teacher. He was actually half Milarepa and half scholar. So it was both joined together. So we studied for many years with him, a group of 16, 20 people, to become translator, because we were the first generation of translator. So it was really important to train translator to be able to transmit the teaching. So we were in this first generation.
So could you tell us more about the life back there in France and what really impelled you to live here in Nepal from the last 4 decades?
I cannot tell you. I have no idea. It just happened like that, you know. And one day you feel that you are at the right place, and you feel comfortable. Also, I was a translator in Europe, in centers and so on. And also I always liked traveling. So I started a small travel agency. And then I decided that sending people to Nepal, India, Tibet, Bhutan, it was much better for me, much nicer for me to be here and to welcome the people instead of sending them and staying there, you know, back there. So yeah, that was the motivation to start traveling and to settle here. I had my teacher who actually was in Europe, actually settled in Bodnat also. So I went here and settled here for, yeah. And then 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10, the children have grown up here, then they are gone back to Europe to study, and we're still here. So,
I mean, there are a lot of people who are saying once they are in Nepal, they just keep on loving it because it's really a mysterious place. Do you also feel the same thing?
mysterious, I'm not sure. For me, the basic thing about Nepal is it was a non-materialistic society, you know, non-consumerist society, very friendly to foreigners. Even during the Maoist, we never had the slightest idea, said, okay, we have to leave because it's too dangerous. We never had this kind of a pressure on foreigners. Yeah, and somehow, you know, I'm not really from the valleys. My field is more like Dolpo, Mustang, more the Tibetan side of Nepal, you know, beyond the Himalayas, the plateau, and it's always something that is appealing me, you know. Mount Kailash, where I've been many times, and so it was always this kind of appeal for this kind of landscape, life, culture, religion, of course, spiritual approach. I love the spiritual approach of Nepal, you know, of Nepali people, you know, the street, you know, when you see the people going around the stupa in Swayambhu or Bodha, or when you go to Pashupati or to Palanchok Bhagwati, where I go very often with some friends. Okay, this feeling, you know, even though we don't understand everything, you know, I'm not an Hindu and I'm not really into Hinduism, but this feeling of devotion and religious devotion and prayers and pilgrims and this feeling of the sacred life in the daily life, you know, there is no separation between the sacred life and the profane life, you know, between daily life and things. So this is still very appealing, and yeah. So that's part of my Nepali feel, you know. And of course, I mean, just hanging around in Patan or in Bagdapur, you know, in the old city, I mean, it's still mind-blowing. So I was in Nuwakot a couple of days ago, you know. Nice, huh? Doba, Nuwakot. Went to Gorkha also a couple of days ago.
That you travel a lot by bike?
Yeah, not a lot, but I did a few trips, and I just come back from a trip to do some Reiki. I went to Mustang last year, so I'm not a biker as such, but I'm more a trekker. But I like the bike to go a bit further, and also because now a lot of people are interested. Because as you know, more and more roads everywhere in Nepal, so trekking is a bit going down in a way because areas are, you know, more congested. So motorbike, people really love it, you know. So I organize also some trips there, so I can do the Reiki myself, which is also very nice.
So you're doing Reiki as well, and you're practicing Buddhism from the Kogyo tradition, and you're also practicing Zen Buddhism at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, as a lot of us, I've been around different kind of tradition. We talked before about Vipassana, so I did a few Vipassana with Goenka. I practice in France mostly with a Zen teacher, French Zen teacher, and then mostly, of course, in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. But with the painting, I am more inclined toward what we call Chan, which is the Chinese Zen, the origin of Zen, which is Chan in Chinese. So I'm more inclined into this kind of a practice now, less rituals, less tantric approach, you know, much more simple, direct, sitting, watching the mind. So this is more my approach nowadays, you know.
So we'll be talking about your paintings in a short while, but before we do that, let's talk a bit about Zen Buddhism. Like you were telling me, back in France, when you were practicing it, you were introduced to it for the first time, right? So Zen, when I researched about it, it came from India, and they could not pronounce the name when it came to Tibet, to China. Yes, and Dhyan becomes Zen, and then Chen, and then Zen.
Exactly. So it was jhana or dhyan, yeah, in Sanskrit, and then from the Chinese put it China instead of jhana. They put it China. That's how it was transliterated, and jhana became Chan in Chinese, and then from Chan Zen. Yeah, but it's actually dhyana. Dhyana is which means meditation, or you know, which is the main the core. It's a teacher called Bodhidharma, who actually came from India, you know, and who went to China and then went to see the king, and the king didn't understand a word of his teaching, so he ran away from the court, and he established this dhyana tradition in China, which has spread quite a lot.
There is also yet another story. There was one monk who was called Kamalashila, who went to Tibet from India.
Yes, exactly.
And when he went there, there was yet another religion being practiced there. And the king, what he did was, he called both of the teachers there, and he started to make a debate there.
In Samye.
Yes.
In Samye monastery. Yes,
true.
Exactly.
And when the debate was done, whoever wins will be the religion there.
Exactly. Yeah. It's interesting because actually when you look at the Tibetan archives, they say the Tibetan won the debate. When you look at the Chinese archive, they say the Chinese won the debate. But the fact is, it seems that the Indian approach was much more progressive, what we call the progressive stages of practice of meditation. Okay, learning, reflecting, meditating, and really a progression with different exercise, bodhicitta, and so on. Whether in the Chan approach, it's much more direct. It's called the abrupt or the direct path. It means that you sit and you watch your mind directly. So there is less ritualistic. It's not tantric. It's not the Vajrayana. It's not the tantric approach. It's really basic sitting meditation. So it's less. It has less popular religion around it. You know, it's more philosophical and practical, more than ritualistic, which is very much what happened here in Nepal between whether it's the Tibetan Buddhist or whether it's Hinduism and so on. Rituals are very important. You know, devotion is really important. In the Zen practice, it's really the sitting here and now, which is the basic of the teaching.
Like you are telling me that in Buddhist meditation, like in Zen meditation, you'll be just sitting there. And I've read somewhere that Zen Buddhism is also the meditation where the mind does not function, or no mind philosophy is there. Is it true? Can somebody be mindless?
Exactly no mind. The idea, which is actually the same approach in the Buddhist Dzogchen or Mahamudra tradition, the idea is to watch what is happening in the mind. Okay? Is actually the idea is to watch the watcher. Because whatever we do, it's just like a projector. We are always looking outside. Okay? When you do a Vipassana meditation, you your attention is focused on the sensation in the body. Okay, mostly. That's the Goenka Vipassana. Is mostly attention to the sensation. In the other tradition, like more Tibetan Buddhism, you are looking into not only sensation, but the body itself, and the perception, and the thoughts, and the consciousness. Okay? But beyond consciousness, I mean, beyond the thoughts pattern, there is the watcher. And the whole idea of Mahamudra or Zen or Chan is to watch the watcher, to understand what is this watcher. Okay, and then we understand that this watcher actually is empty. It's empty, but it's also luminous.
I mean, can somebody living being be empty at all?
No, it's empty and luminous. It means like the projector who is projecting the picture on the screen, okay? Itself, it doesn't care about the image. The image are just passing by, just like the thoughts. The thoughts of whatever, chocolate, or the thoughts of the mountains, or the thoughts of this and that, or remembering my parents. Okay, if I focus on these thoughts, I can use it, you know, and think about it and so on. If I look at the thought, I just look at coming in and coming out. The problem is we are always grasping to these thoughts as being me. That's the problem. So when you just let it go, it comes and it goes. If you need it, you use it. If you don't need it, you let go. And behind that, behind this screen with all these pictures coming in and out, there is the watcher, the projector. And if we look at the projector, actually it has no materiality, it has no reality. The mind has no color, no form, no shape. It's just a presence. And it's exactly what this kind of presence that we are looking for in the Chan or the Zen painting that we are going to talk about. So it's the same attitude of the Taoists, they call it non-doing. Non-doing, it doesn't mean just staying in your armchair watching TV. This is not a non-doing. Non-doing is not interfering, not putting yourself into the picture. Get yourself out of the picture, meaning remaining in the presence of this nature of the mind. Openness. The Tibetan, they call it Rigpa. Rigpa means awareness. Stay in this awareness of the present moment. Okay. And then, in our painting, what we do, we take the brush and then we paint in this presence. They say, remain in presence, move in emptiness. I mean, taking the brush in this empty space where there is no intention. The problem with not the problem, but the approach of our painting is painting without intention. There was a Chinese painter, teacher who said, paint like birds fly, like the water flow, without intention. We don't say, oh, I'm going to make a nice little landscape and I'm going to put a little house. Oh, but maybe I should add a few birds that will be nice and then this and that. This is just the mental construction. The idea of the Zen or Chan approach of painting, you take the brush, you remain in this empty presence of your own mind, and then you let go without intention. Because life is now. If I try to remember a landscape that I saw, of course we are inspired by nature when we travel or when we trek or when we sit in nature. Okay, we are inspired by bamboos, by flowers, by whatever, birds, wildlife. Okay, but all that is ingrained in ourselves. And then when we take the brush, we don't try to say, oh, how was it, this bird that I saw? Oh, it was like that. No, it was maybe blue. No. Okay, idea of the bird. We paint the idea. We suggest the bird. We don't try to reproduce the bird. And that's the key of this kind of painting, is painting in the suggestion, not in the resemblance. So we have the intention. Okay, I like to do a landscape. Okay, why not? Okay, and then we start. And from one brush stroke comes the second one, the third one, and so on, without premeditation or pre-intention. Okay, so that's why often the Chinese teacher said, most important in the painting is before the painting, is this meditative approach. So first you meditate, you empty your mind, you don't try to do anything, no intention, you let go of your own self, otherwise you will think it's yourself which is painting, which is very dangerous. So it's not me, it paints through me. And then take the brush, then you let go, and you see what happened. And as you said before in the introduction, no remorse. You don't go back and say, oh, I'm sorry. In life, there is no mistake. Everything is here. Just like in this garden, everything is here. You know, the wind here, the music over there, the birds over there, everything is here. There is nothing else. All the rest is just ideas about what will happen or what has happened. But here we are. There is a plane. Okay, here. And you go. And sometimes miracles happen, sometimes it doesn't happen. But the most important is the doing of the painting. It's not the purpose, or it's not the aim of doing something beautiful or achieving something or wanting to sell a painting. This is not the idea. Idea is just now. That's what we call the doing in the non-doing, without intention, without thinking, oh, I will reproduce this Van Gogh painting, it was nice, maybe, la la la. This is just the mental and the ego start to play around.
But the idea itself is really controversial.
Sorry?
I mean, the idea itself is really controversial. To do things and to be not there. You're just the observer, like you were telling me. You be like a projector.
Yes.
The images keeps on coming. It goes. Just witness it.
Yes.
And
The witness,
just pick the right thing at the right moment.
Or you don't pick, or you just let go. Yeah.
Yes. The very same talk, I think long back, I was reading a book by Osho.
Yes.
It was called Wild Geese and the Water. So the same concept was there. I mean, you are there, just witness things. You are just the witnesser.
Yes.
And everything that needs to happen, it just happens.
No, you're right. Yes. Otherwise, we put the ego everywhere. The me, myself. Oh, this is my painting, and I want to do this, and I want to do that, and I want to achieve this, and I want. Okay, I. Okay. Get behind. Let all that pass. Even the I, let it go.
Even in Hindu philosophy, there is the same kind of techniques that is being used. They call it dualism and non-dualism.
Non-dualism, of course. Yeah, Advaita Vedanta.
True.
Yes, definitely.
And even in Tantra, the same thing is there. Yes. So once you initiate with your body, and then the body is not there, you're just the experiencer. Yes. And everything that happens, that needs to happen, will happen. Yes. Don't worry about it. No remorse, like you said. But talking about it, what is the achievement of life? I mean, what enlightenment means to you?
That's exactly enlightenment, what we're talking about. Enlightenment, it's not a state. It's not like a driving license. Huh? You don't get the stamp, Enlightenment is opening, opening, opening. The Zen teacher, they say, open in the open. It means let go, let go, let go. And then you understand that everything is there. The wind, the birds, the singing, everything is there. I don't cling to anything, it's just totally empty. And my mind is empty into this. In Tibetan, we call that one taste. Everything has the same taste. Everything comes and goes, whether it's the clouds in the sky, whether it's my thoughts, the same. Whether it's my sensation, like in Vipassana. In Vipassana, we concentrate on the sensation. Same idea. Pain in the knee. Oh, I want to go away. I want to run away. I cannot stand it. It's too much. Goenkaji, I have to go. Stay. Okay. Go through it. Same idea with the thoughts. You look at them, craving for whatever, chocolate. Craving. Just it comes and it goes. The problem is we grab, and then I want, I like, or I don't like, and I reject. But inside, there is nothing. There is not something which is me, which is like a little box, you know, with a nice little rope that doesn't exist. It's just moment. Souvenir, memories. Oh, I was like that last week, so I should be like that today. Nothing. It's a different me. It's a different world. It's a different everything. Everything is changing.
Jerome, for you, I mean, the concept of enlightenment that I was talking about, when I was reading about it, the last time I was reading a text by Lao Tzu. He was sitting just behind the tree and he was watching the leaves fall. And it said at that moment something happened with the flow of the leaves itself. When it fell down, he became enlightened. What does it mean actually?
That's a very Taoist or very Zen story. They love this kind of stories. It means that, I mean, my interpretation means that there is nothing else than the present moment. There is no something of, I've been studying for 30 years and this and that, and so it means this and that. No. There, just now, there is the wind, the tree, the leaf, impermanence, everything is moving, there is nothing solid, it's just there. So, it means that you can reach enlightenment all of a sudden that's why we call the abrupt or the direct enlightenment in the Zen tradition or in the Chan tradition, because you'd never know when it will happen. Sometime, you know, you have this story of Tilopa and Naropa, Tilopa taking his shoes, you know, and hitting Naropa in the face with his shoes, you know, and then he reached enlightenment. So something, all of a sudden, people realize that, okay, there is nothing there. There is nothing there. It's just as it is, open and empty. So all of a sudden you see the leaf, but it can be anything else. It can be the sound of something, it can be the voice of your teacher, it can be two words told by a kid, it can be anything. You know, all of a sudden, it's called crossing or opening the empty gate. Because the gate was always there, what we call Buddha nature, you know. It's always there, Tathagata Garbha. It's always present in us. This Buddha nature is potentiality to enlightenment. It's always there. The problem is we hide it behind so many concepts, ideas, identification in willing to do and to be there and to be different of what we are and to be in the past or in the future, instead of just opening this open door because it was always open.
Do the enlightened people get sad? Do they get happy like other people? Or are they a different being?
The problem is you can feel sad, but you don't have to identify with the sadness. The problem is when you identify with the sadness or the happiness. Oh, I'm happy, it's so great, you know, and then we want to preserve that. And that's the Taoist always said, you know, whoever wants good politics without bad politics is not in the reality. You know, if you want the black without the white, it never works. If you want happiness without suffering, it doesn't exist. This is always the two sides of every phenomena in the world. You know, the downside and the upside. It's just concept. Up and down, left and right, black and white, whatever. So this is dualistic. So idea of happiness, of real happiness, is to remain in the non-duality. In this non-duality, in openness, then there is no duality. So of course you can have sadness if you lose a dear person, or you can be very happy because of this and that, a newborn baby or being a grandfather, it happened to me, okay, then you are very happy. But you don't identify with this happiness. And you don't want, or you know that this happiness will not last. This is also impermanent.
Theoretically it is possible, like you said, but in practice?
That's the practice. The practice is the practice. So that's why meditation is a training. It's a training to get used to this, you know, moving of phenomenon, of the leaves falling down, impermanent. 2 minutes ago it was a beautiful tree and all of a sudden it's on the floor. If I get attached to that, you know, wow, we'll get mangoes, you know, everything will be great, this and that, and all of a sudden, fall down on the floor, finished, okay, impermanent. Cannot grasp to anything, you know. Only thing we can grasp at is the very moment where we are, when our mind is. And it's exactly what we are trying to achieve with our painting. That's why for me, discovering not very long ago, maybe 20 years ago, this kind of painting was really the prolongation of the meditation practice. It's really being in the moment, being in the presence, being in the mind, here and now. There is nothing else. Life is now. It's not yesterday, and it's not tomorrow. Tomorrow there is no life. Tomorrow, life is here. And the painting is the same. We're trying to catch the energy, the life. The Chinese, they call it the qi, the prana, the qi, the energy, the breath, you know, of life. So our painting is the prolongation of this state of presence and moving from the presence into the canvas.
Like you were telling me, you didn't learn art in your school days, no. And back 20 years back, what had happened actually that you came into painting?
It's very, yeah, I don't know. I had brushes and ink, Chinese ink, because when I did some meditation in India, I thought during this retreat, oh, I will take some ink and brush. It will be nice to do some kanji, some Chinese calligraphy, you know, for in between session, just to relax and so on. Of course, I did that for 2 weeks, and then after some time, forget the brush because you don't know, and you know. But I had the brush and the ink, you know. And then one day somebody told me, oh, you know, there is a guy in France. He's giving a seminar on calligraphy and painting, and I went there and said, wow, that's where I should be. Sometimes happen.
So it came from calligraphy at the beginning.
Because the thing in China, the ink stroke is actually the calligraphic stroke. So it's the same basic strokes. Most of the people, especially the Chinese, Korean, Japanese, they start, of course, by calligraphy when they are kids. We don't have this background. So we don't. I didn't start by calligraphy. A lot of my friends did actually Chinese calligraphy as such. I started directly with the bamboos and with the orchids and with the lotus. You know, which is what we call it's the basic training for paintings. Instead of going through calligraphy, but I should have. If I had started that when I was 20, I would have started by calligraphy. Because it really gives you the brush stroke and the inking and the mastery of the brush, which is quite important somehow.
So Jérôme, while talking with you, I remember one of the incidents of my life as well. 10 years back, I used to think that I'll be a writer someday. In those days, I used to read frantically, and I used to write a lot. In those days, I was writing a story. When I was doing it, I was all alone, I was all by myself when I started it. So when I was starting to write, it so happened that the words seemed like flowing to me from somewhere else, and I could not stop writing. The hands, I could see my hands moving, and I could see the jumbles of words coming in my mind, and I was just pouring it down in the paper itself. Was it something like Zen thing that happened to me at that time?
Maybe it's called inspiration.
I don't know, because
inspiration.
I was all full of words, and I was thinking to myself that I needed to jot it down in the paper.
You remember the surrealist? That's what they call automatic writing, with Breton and all these people. You know, that's what they did. You know, was actually automatic writing means writing faster than the mental, than the willing to write. And that's what we do in our painting. We paint faster than the mental, than the willing to paint something beautiful, nice, and this and that and that. So that's the same idea. You become a vehicle for something, and we don't know what, and we don't want to interpret. It's there. It's kind of an instant of not like a possession, but something like that, like a trance somehow.
True.
You know, it's kind of a trance because it goes beyond your willing, beyond your ego, beyond the I would like to and I want to and I don't want and I want to do this and that and that. It's beyond the thought pattern, beyond the self.
When was the last time that you experienced that? When you were painting?
Sometimes it happens. Of course, not always. You know, sometimes you have a moment of grace. We can call that a grace or blessing, or you don't know, as you mentioned for yourself. Never know when it happened. But of course, you have to put yourself in the position or in the situation for this to happen. That's why we said most important part in the painting is before painting, is to put yourself in the proper attitude of openness and let go. You know, not having all these ideas and thoughts and, you know, wills and the intention and I would like to, da da da. Just to open everything. And then you take the brush and you see what happens. Sometimes miracles happen. Sometimes.
Can you tell me when the experience of the painting that you're doing where you lost yourself? I mean, philosophically you can be lost, but from inside, when this kind of thing happen, what is there actually? Is it ecstasy that you feel? Is it the most happiness?
The problem is as long as you feel, then you are in dualistic. Okay. You know, so normally it happens, you don't even think, you know. That's why my teacher used to say, you know, sometimes you start painting and you have a good flow, you have good energy, you have a good chi, you know, things are flowing. Keep doing, okay? Because otherwise, if you stop it, sometimes, I mean, it's difficult to get back into this grace or graceful states, or, you know, and it happens sometime, and then you don't know why everything flow, and, you know. Just like for you, for the writing.
The experience that I had, the writing that I made out of that, it was around 10 years back, and my wife was a girlfriend then. So I just gifted it to her, and she didn't understand anything. And I told her, this is the part of my soul that I'm giving you, and she just kept it. But still, she sometimes reads it and says, your soul is really complicated. I cannot understand anything. What the hell are you writing here?
But you know the secret, it's not even your soul, because that doesn't exist anyway. So it was just a moment in life, you know. And then the moment is gone, and then there's another one. It's the same with the painting. You do a painting, then it's gone, you know. And we don't try to reproduce it, because it's impossible. You were in this instant of let go, trance, maybe meaningful, maybe not meaningful, who cares? It's there. And I'm sure you were happy when you were doing it. Huh? Sense of freedom, of opening, of let go. Of, yeah? But of course, if we want to reproduce, that's what you asked me before about sadness or happiness. If we are to reproduce, we'll never be able to reproduce. It's gone. Just like the birds passing in the sky, they are gone. You know, if we try to catch them, they're gone. You know, instant is gone. But this instant is just like when you ask about enlightenment. This is this instant of enlightenment. You know, it's a little taste of it. But of course, if we want to grasp and to say, oh, I want to get back into that state that was so nice, so beautiful, then we start trying to cling and to make it into a box, and it's finished.
It's a really interesting question to ask to a Zen practitioner.
A Buddhist practitioner.
Okay. So what's your future plan like? Do you think of tomorrow, or do you just enjoy today?
Of course, you always have to think a little bit of tomorrow, and you also have to think mostly about today.
So what do you plan regarding? No plan. No plans. But you still think about it?
Since 30 years I'm asking myself, should I go back to France or should I stay here? Since 30 years. So I still don't have the answer. So it's fine. And we are happy here so far. Very nice. Okay, of course I have granddaughter, children. One is in Fiji, the other one is in Spain. you know, my culture and my brother and sister family are in France, but I'm in Nepal. I'm happy here. So far.
We've been asking a lot of artists what life is for him. Could I ask the same question to you?
What is life for me? Should I be clever? Should I be Taoist? Should I be?
Just be honest. Just be honest.
Life is being here, you know, being here, you know, with in this environment, this place, here now. Just so happy.
And the art?
Art has become really part of my life because it's part of my meditation practice. It's the same. When I practice or when I meditate, it's the same approach. You know, the painting is it's a state of being, and meditation is also a state of being. It's not something that we construct, that we build, that we cling to. It's a state of being.
So if you have to differentiate in between life and art, how would you do it?
It's the same. It's the same.
And the colors?
The colors is, for me, because I'm working mostly with ink, for me colors is more like it's just like colors. To give coloration. But for me, the art doesn't need coloration necessarily. Of course, it's nice. It's just like a black and white picture and a color picture. Of course, it's nicer to have a color picture, you know, you can see the sea and the green and this and blue. Okay, but a beautiful black and white picture is the essence of the subject, the essence of nature. So for me, ink as such is enough. Okay, people can put some color, it's fine, but it becomes more like something that you add to the life itself, which is fine, you know, just like drinking a glass of wine is something that you add to life, you know, which is okay, you know. But as such, you don't need, you know, breathing, you know. So the same for the painting, you know, when you start to put colors, then you have to think, oh, I should put there and this some blue, and oh, maybe I should, and then, of course, on the blue, you said, oh, but it's not blue enough, so I am going to put something else. And then you start thinking, You are not in life anymore. You are in creation. You create something. Like an architect, you know, is thinking of the future, how this building should stand. You know, I have to put this and that and that and that. You have to think of everything. It's totally conceptual. Our painting, our meditation is non-conceptual. It's not an idea that I want to become enlightened. When you start like that, normally it doesn't work. So same thing for the painting. I want to make a masterpiece. Oof.
So you have very tactfully given the answer. The last time I was reading about George Bernard Shaw. He was a guest somewhere in one of his friend's house. Okay. When he was living there, there was a small child in the garden who came to Bernard Shaw because this child was thinking, this is a philosopher and is a really intelligent person. He came and asked him, Bernard Shaw, can you tell me why are the leaves green? Bernard Shaw started thinking to himself, if I start teaching this child regarding the chlorophyll and so on, this child is not going to understand anything. So he started thinking in his mind for a while, and he replied, the leaves are green because they are green. And this child started saying, that's what I was thinking. Right. So the colors, like the way you defined, it reminded me of the same kind of answer.
And it's the same story than the leaf fall, the Taoist story that you were mentioning. You know, the leaf falling from the tree is the same idea. You know, the leaf is green because it's green, and the leaf falls down because it falls down, and there is nothing else. All the rest is just the mental fabrication. Oh yes, because chlorophyll, or because, you know, autumn, or because this and that, and that. All that is idea that we put. The fact is, there is a leaf falling down. There is a bird singing there. There is a guy hammering his his jata over there. That's where there is. There is nothing else. All the rest is just mental idea, concept, which of course are necessary in science, in life and everything, we don't say that. But in terms of meditative approach of life, you are the projector. The image, you are not, the projector is not concerned with the image. Whether it's a love story, whether it's a terrible war story, whether it's just beautiful landscape, the projector doesn't care. The problem is the projector has light. And if you turn on the light or turn off the light, it makes a difference. That we have to turn off the line, but we have to realize that the picture are not the projector. The projector doesn't care about the movie.
So what is masterpiece for you?
Nothing.
Nothing is masterpiece.
No. Because it depends on the culture, it depends on the understanding of the people, it depends of the, you know, of everything, the time and everything, you know. Of course, there are consensus masterpiece like Mona Lisa or, you know, Guernica or whatever, you know. Okay, Vermeer or, you know. But this is more social consensus. You see that with the contemporary art, you know. I mean, when you see some of the pieces, it's just totally insane. But, okay, there is a consensus. And, of course, there is a lot of marketing and money behind and, you know, and price. So there was no premeditation. It was as long as there is the desire to produce something, the desire to put oneself in the picture and, you know, being famous or selling or marketing behind all that, this is not art. Art is just openness to life. And of course, it's a present moment, you know, that we try to capture, which is the same present moment than the present moment of the mind. It's a way of being. It's not a way of having or creating or, you know, producing. It is terrible, you know. There's a modern art, contemporary art, you know, they said producing, you know, or reproducing, you know. For me, it doesn't mean anything, or at least it's not my type of approach of meditation and art.
So, do you have any wise words for the aspiring artist? For the aspiring artist.
It's just like if you ask me to make a masterpiece in painting. No, the only thing for me, which I can say is get yourself outside of the picture. Remain in presence and let life go through you. Which is an exercise. It needs practice. It doesn't happen. You cannot, I mean, of course you can ask a child to paint, you give him a brush and he will do something without intention. So Picasso said, it took me 4 years to paint like Raphael. It took me a lifetime to be able to paint like a child. So that's maybe a good advice for painters.
Thank you so much, Jérôme ji. It was nice talking with you.
Thank you, Sunil ji.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too, Sunil ji. Thank you.